And welcome everybody to the PCS Like a Pro show. I'm your host, Megan Harless, as always, and I'm excited for y'all to be here today because we're going to be talking about a topic that we see comes up usually every peak season as people get ready for a PCS and people start thinking about their options of how they're going to PCS. And so we're going to be talking about what you need to know with PCSing with an RV. But before we get into that, I just want to remind everybody that we are in peak season. There are a lot of locations that are already kind of booked to capacity until at least mid-July. Some locations are later July. It all depends on where you're going to and from, but we know some locations are booked until then. So if you find yourself on short notice orders or trying, you have your orders, you're still trying to move in June, depending on where you're at, that may or may not be possible. We're seeing some families having to put their items into a storage unit, have them picked up from there at a later time. Other families are sending their service member on, and then the family will travel on at a later time. And other folks, at least on the CONUS side of things, are looking at doing PPMs, personally procured moves, formerly known as the Diddy. There should be a rap song in there somewhere. But right? But are having to change and do one of those other plans just because it is tight capacity again this year. There's still a truck driver shortage happening. There's some labor shortages happening. So we're seeing some folks having to shift plans with that. But just know as soon as you get your official hard orders, you get into DPS, you get your move set up. If your orders are short notice orders, so 10 to 15 days, you're supposed to be someplace, go into your transportation office and talk to somebody directly about what your options are so they can assist you. So that's all that. We're going to dive into today because I'm really excited about it. I've been trying to convince my husband we need a camper. I'm hoping this kind of helps him understand why we need one as well. He wants... Right. I mean, he once said, I don't think we go enough places to warrant a camper. And I tried to spin it on him. Well, maybe we don't go enough places because we don't have a camper. Yeah, I mean, right. Good argument. At least I think so. So we're going to, yeah.
Currently, our camper is being used as our guest house as well. So you can push that one on him too. It's the mother-in-law suite.
Yeah, it should be perfect. So as you can tell, I've got Stephanie with me here today in her tiny camper, which I absolutely love that. So Stephanie, if you can just take a minute and tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Stephanie. This is our 6th duty station. We are currently at J-Bear up in Alaska. Full daylight hours all the time right now. My husband is Army and we have 3 kids. So doing this moving thing.
The good fun stuff. If you guys don't remember, we have had, or Stephanie, she looks so familiar. That is because we have had her on our show before a couple months ago. Actually, when was that? October, November timeframe. We had her on. We were talking about homeschooling and what you needed to know about homeschooling and PCSing at that time. So now she's back to talk to us about RV life and PCSing. So, I mean, first, the obvious question here, why an RV?
First of all, I wanted one to travel and just to hang out and like you do. And so I think PCSing was kind of that perfect excuse to hey, we do need this. But more than that, we have 3 kids and we were making a really big move. We were going from Fort Hood to J-Bear. But interim visiting with family and stuff. And it's really hard sometimes to find hotels. We have a dog, we have a cat. So just having our house be wherever we were is extremely convenient for our family. I had a baby at the time that we did this move. And so having everything that we needed, we all know there's some issues with shipping delays and stuff. So I didn't have to worry about whether or not I had the pack and play, the stroller. We had kitchenware when we first got to our house because it was in my camper. So it's really convenient. It's a great way to have a house with you, no matter where home might be, or if you're in the middle of being homeless.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I like that if you're in the middle of being homeless piece, because sometimes a lot of times, especially with what our current housing market is, trying to find a rental if you're not going to be buying at your next location or having to wait on finding a house to buy or waiting on that closing cost, you're in a way you feel like you're not so homeless because you have a little home of some sort that is your space.
That was definitely us. When we arrived at J Bear, actually kind of hopscotching through Canada, we met 2 other families that were moving as well, and we were all in our campers. And the other 2 families told us that they have done this 3 times, and that's just their norm. They move in their camper. But then at the J Bear campground, a lot of the people there were PCSing either in or out and living in their camper until housing was available. We bought a house here and still spent, I think, 32 days at the campground waiting to get into our house.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So for some folks may have reservations about utilizing an RV in regards to it being, having a vehicle that's big enough to maybe tow it, or if you have one that you have to drive or you have to ship a second car, what
Yeah.
can you fit inside of the RV? Like all that logistical stuff of things. So can you just walk us through some of what your logistical plans were of how you physically moved from point A to point B with your RV?
Yeah, so we were actually buying a vehicle at the time that we bought the trailer so we could do all of this in tandem.
Mhm.
But you don't have to buy a big monster RV. You can just get a smaller one. I think the dry weight on this one is just over 3,000 pounds. So most SUVs can tow our camper. It's not a big giant one. You can obviously buy that big monster camper if that's what you want, but just for our family, it was lower on the budget to purchase the smaller one. And we did want to make sure that my SUV or his truck could haul it. So I would say if you're concerned, look at the lower end of that, get a lighter weight one. And you can probably haul it with just about anything that's not a little car. As far as storage, I am in the camper and I don't think I can flip my camera. But we utilized the space under the table. This turns into a bed and that's where the baby was. And then there's a bed here. So all of that was used for just normal storage space. We also have outside storage that I'm not going to get out and get to, but most campers do. So really just prioritize what it is that you're going to need. And once you've had it, you'll kind of maintain stuff in here anyway. But it's kind of like packing your UAV, but taking it with you. So when you're making those separations, just get the things that you're going to need. Less is more. There's laundry on the road. Pretty much every actual camping facility that we stayed at had an option to do your laundry. So don't overthink it. Really get the basics, and you'll learn to get by with what you have. It's a great move toward minimalism.
Yeah, that there's laundry on the road definitely speaks to me, because if you guys don't know me, I'm an overpacker. I need options, and my options need options, and sometimes those
She needs a friend to talk her down.
I do. Every time I go on a trip, I'm just like, how do I fit this into here? Like I should just take a checked bag for this 2-day trip. I've gotten better over time. I really have. But knowing that you have that ability, and then you also speaking to getting a camper on like the lighter side of things, smaller size for stuff. I think that really speaks to my husband, because I'm over here, showing him pictures of like these giant things that have all of the accessory things to it, that have all the extra slides and living space. I'm just like, look, it's like a mini home. We can do it. He's like, my truck isn't big enough to tow that thing. Like we'd have to get, I'm like, we'll get you a bigger truck. Like you need a new truck anyway. Like let's just get and so I think that piece really speaks to him, and what, like we don't have to go this big, huge thing.
I have to say the one thing I would have done differently is gotten a slide just to have a little more living space. But we got a really excellent price on the camper that we bought. It's in great condition. It has everything that we need, and it just makes you get outside. So this is where we sleep. Yeah. It's not really where we hang out. So look for like those little features in your camper that you want. Like we have an outside cooking area. There's like a little propane grill area outside and an outside shower, and just those sort of essential things are actually way more important than the really flashy, not important stuff.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I try to convince him now as we're nearing retirement, like as our kids move out of the house and they scatter, like an RV would be great to be able to go see our children. He's just like, when we get out in the military, we go see people. He's like, I'm going to fly because I'm done driving across the country. I'm just like, an RV could be fun though. So let's talk a little bit about like the entitlements of using an RV. So like we put stuff in it, we can weigh it and we can count that as like a partial ppm, right?
Correct. You can count the weight of your actual belongings, not the dry weight of the camper itself.
Mhm.
So our camper weighs just over 3,000 pounds. You don't get to count that weight, just you weigh it full, you weigh it empty, just like you would a car.
Mhm. Yeah, no, absolutely. And like, what about for using it for like TLE or TLA and like those types of entitlements?
Yep, you can definitely do that. When you're counting it for your TLE, your TLA, you need to make sure that you get that line by line zeroed out date like you would for an Airbnb or a
Mhm.
hotel. It just needs to have a charge for every day and then show your zero balance. And what that is basically going to be is your campground space. So I think at J Bear we paid $30 a night for the actual campground space. You just need to turn that into TLE, just like you would a hotel, and you'll get your reimbursements. And as long as you're in a time period where you get meals and incidentals, you're going to get that money as well. So eat in your camper. It's why you have it. You have a little kitchen. Use it, and hopefully you can, if not come out even, make a little money on your trip.
Yeah, no, absolutely. For those still on the fence on using an RV, what should they know about before going in with this plan of using? Anything you wish you would have known about before, or like learned the hard way in making your RV PCS plan?
Um, Definitely, my husband is an over preparing person, and I thought, you are crazy, mister. But we took a little toolkit with us on the road, and I can't tell you how much of that we ended up using for just simple little fixes. So take your toolkit with you, listen to your husband on that one, ladies, or make them think it's your idea. But otherwise, it was actually a really smooth move for us. We had a baby, like a 6-month-old ish baby. So we had a little person, a 10-year-old, a 5-year-old, and everything went a lot better than I imagined. Just do it. It's a great way to move.
Yeah, no, absolutely. We've got a couple of pictures that you sent me that I want to pop up here. If you can just talk us through
Yeah.
some of that.
Yeah.
Let me go back to the beginning of the whole. All right, here we go.
Okay. So we were actually PCSing from Fort Hood, Texas to J Bear, but our families are in West Virginia. And so we document every day of the trip on Facebook, of course. But this is just the full map that we did. One thing I could recommend, if you look at this map actually goes through Chicago. So we rerouted not to go through Chicago. That's something you really need to keep in mind when traveling with an RV. Are some of those major cities, getting through them with the trailer and the traffic is just not convenient. Or if you want to pre-book your sites, you might want to just check and make sure that there's something there, see how expensive they are. So our actually went more towards Dakota. And partially because we made a little vacation out of this and kind of detoured and went and saw places on the way and did something fun.
Yeah, I like the idea of taking it and making it kind of a more vacation sort of thing instead of a drive straight through, especially with how long of a trip that you guys had, that you're
Yeah,
able to kind of break it up some.
definitely. And my kids still talk about that. They don't ever refer to it as that time we were PCSing. They'll say when we went to the Badlands or when we went gold panning or whatever. It was a relation to them. I think morally and emotionally, it really helped to see this as a positive thing, not just leaving everything behind. Because really, we were in a little home that they're familiar with. We have a dog and a cat, and so here you can see my cat. This was probably one of the best parts of moving with the camper. He had access to a litter box, which anyone who has a cat knows is integral to moving with them. And then also, hotels for cats are hard to find, and so we just took him right along with us. And we PCS through Canada last year during COVID. And so we actually were not allowed to go into any buildings except to use the restroom briefly. And so I really wanted Tim Hortons. This is the last Tim Hortons before you cross into the States. We weren't allowed to go in. And my husband said, I'll go through the drive through. And I said, you have a camper? Are you insane? But he did it, and we had people that were like clapping as we went around. But also, you can see it's a really big camper, and the five of us managed in it pretty well. We all still like each other at the end of it. So you can do this in a small camper and get your Tim Hortons.
Yes. No, Tim Hortons. For those that don't know what Tim Hortons is, Tim Hortons, I mean, I don't even know what you would compare it to. For me, it's similar to a Dunkin', but better. They have more than just
Yeah,
donuts. They also have like bagels and little sandwich things that you can get as well.
yeah,
But
like
it
a
is
cross
good.
between a Krispy Kreme and a Panera, maybe.
Yeah, something similar to that. I will say their frozen cappuccino is really good. Their iced cap. That's what got me through my high school years back in
Sour
Ohio.
cream donut. Mm.
Yes, yes. So if you are going through Canada or even the Midwest, where there are some located at Ohio, West Virginia, I'm not sure what other areas have a Tim Hortons, but if you happen by one, it's one of those places you should definitely stop at and experience once in your life. You'll understand what's missing. Um, Same thing if you're going through West Virginia. Tudor's Biscuit World is also, has a spot in my heart because it's just so good. The Mountaineer biscuit is delicious. I highly recommend it.
So this speaks to making a vacation out of it. We intentionally went through Omaha, Nebraska, and stopped at the Henley-Dorley Zoo. And absolutely, unfortunately, when we were there, some of the roads shut down for COVID. I think that's probably changed now. But again, my kids talk about that time. It's that time we were moving. To them, it's when we went to the zoo. So just having the ability to make a little vacation out of your move. And by using the camper to PCS, we were able to pay for most of these things that we did per diem. Because per diem typically cover a hotel in, as you're moving, eating out for all of those people. And we were able to just stay at campgrounds and eat in the camper. And so we used that extra money to take the kids to the zoo.
And if you've never been to the Omaha Zoo and you guys happen by it, I highly suggest going. I will say, in my own personal opinion, I like the Omaha Zoo a lot better than the San Diego Zoo. Please don't come hate me. But I don't know. There was something about the Omaha Zoo I just loved a lot more. It's definitely very family friendly and a good setup there.
This is gold panning in South Dakota, which I have to say is one of the best experiences. My kid absolutely adored it. Had to buy blue socks since then. But once again, this is one of those things that we were able to do by pulling some money from we were saving. We definitely ate sandwiches that day. I am a budget person, so I really kept track of this is how much per diem we get. This is how much our hotel or our campground site is. And we really tried to work that out. So when we did the gold panning thing, there were a couple of days where my kids were like, Mom, PB&J again? And I was like, look, kids, you went gold panning, okay? So if like me, you can do that. If not, but this guy's name, for anyone who's interested, is Rattlesnake Randy. He does a military discount that is phenomenal. He can anyway, another one of those things that it wasn't PCSing, it was an amazing vacation for kids. And this is Badlands National Park.
Which is pretty cool. So I absolutely love, again, and with anybody planning a PCS, is being able to make it into a vacation as well. You don't always have to, depending on your timeline, you don't always have to rush straight from A to B. You can take time to experience some of those pieces of the country that you may not otherwise get to see, because you have a reason to go through them.
We did take a little bit of leave in conjunction, but mostly for us, we just did a couple of really long driving days so that we stop and enjoy some of those other days, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, totally does. So anything else that folks should know about PCSing in an RV that we haven't already talked about?
I don't think so. It covers pretty much all of it. It's a great time.
And if you're my husband watching, we can totally get one that your truck can pull.
Yeah.
We can get the smaller one. Totally worth it, honey. I'll have to make sure he sees this later.
Obviously, I'm with Megan on this one. The one other thing is, if you don't have an RV, I know when we were at the campground here at J-Bear, there were several people that were in rented RVs. So if you're just interested in not having to use a hotel room at the end or at the beginning, you could try Outdoorsy or RV Share, and a lot of MWRs rent them as well. So if you wanted to just hang out in an RV when you first get there or when you're leaving, that's you can get a feel for RV life. Maybe you can try this, Megan.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I know some of those websites, like the folks will actually come out and set up the RV for you. Like you don't have to go hook up and tow or anything. You just tell them, what campground they will come and have it set up for you. And they'll even come back and like tear it down and haul it away for you as well.
We actually do that with ours. So right now it's my guest house. My dad is staying here. But we rent it for a lot of weekends. And if someone wants it delivered to a local campground, we'll do that for them and pick it right back up.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. But I think that got through all the questions. Oh, you guys get to see a glimpse of her sweet baby, who is so cute.
Sorry, Daddy's leaving for work.
Special guest appearance. And we have to thank Stephanie for being up and being with us today. As you guys know, she is in Alaska and it's like almost 7:30 there.
7:30 now?
Yeah. And so just waking up early when maybe her kids were sleeping to join us today to talk about PCSing in an RV. Greatly appreciate that. He's like, I'm hungry. Where's the food? There's people. I'm not ready for this, Mom.
It's like, Mom, I'm in a t-shirt. Put nice clothes on me.
Right. So hopefully we answered everybody's questions about PCSing in an RV. Stephanie, thank you for waking up early and joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Everybody else, join us again next week, same time, same place. We're going to be talking, I have my weeks mixed up. So next week is EFMP. We're talking about EFMP, what you need to know about PCSing if you're EFMP, how to navigate that system, those issues, and where you can go for resources and assistance if you're finding yourself kind of caught in the process and not knowing what to do. So join us next week. We'll have Jennifer joining us to discuss all of that. Until then, enjoy the rest of your Wednesday. Enjoy the rest of your week. If you're PCSing, fingers crossed that it all goes smoothly. If you have issues, make sure to reach out. If you're not already in our group, PCS Like a Pro, Your Smooth Move, join us there. We can get all your questions answered. Until then, we'll see you next week.